This is the talk show that takes a no-holds-barred approach to politics, where truth and integrity are the standard and the Constitution honored. From Renaissance Studios, this is Champion News Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to a great edition of Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net, your choice for the conservative voice. This is a great show, great weekend. We have two special guests with us today. One is Jeremy Segal from Rebel Pundit, and we're going to be bringing Bill Zettler on. And what an exciting week. Tuesday, we had a victory in Wisconsin. Friday, we had CPAC. Friday and Saturday was the Republican convention. It is a good time, and this is what democracy is all about. How you doing, Jack?
Sounds like you like a lot of hustle and bustle, but they planned too much for this week when they put CPAC and the Republican Party's state convention on the same day. And I personally am a delegate to that, and a longtime supporter of the Conservative Union, going back probably 40 years. So the teams I'm on are both meeting. I'm on two teams, the Bears and also the Packers on the same day.
Well, those were great events. And you know what the best event, though, of the week was that victory in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. That's the big time thing.
And Jeremy...
Everybody held their breath for that.
I know.
And the Democrats are fainting nationally that this has happened to them.
And Jeremy, you were actually on the ground. I know there were tons of volunteers there from all different states, Indiana and Iowa and Ohio. But you were actually on the ground as a citizen journalist. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeremy.
I was there for Breitbart.com covering the election, what was going on the ground, and I specifically focused in Racine, which happens to be...
Can we backtrack just a little bit and tell a little bit to those people that don't know Breitbart and the cleverness that was in that man? He was the one that primed those people to go and call on those groups that were working.
Acorn.
The
Acorn bus.
And he revealed how crummy that Acorn bunch really is.
Andrew helped James O'Keefe and Hannah Giles promote that story about Acorn and basically took down the organization. And he was the leading pioneer in citizen journalism and new media in this country.
He was clever too. One of his stratagems was, don't let out all of the information at once. Just keep on hitting them, as he did with Jeremy and that investigation. They only revealed one of the investigations, and the press made all the excuses for the Democrats and for Obama.
And then they kept peeling the onion back.
And they kept on coming.
What Andrew really discovered, I think, was the way that the left would go into defense mode when they think they've seen the entire story. And they would end up cornering themselves in deeper and deeper lies, that as more information continued to be exposed, the lies continued to be exposed as bigger and bigger lies, eventually, where they couldn't defend themselves against it anymore.
He let them pay out the rope that hung them.
No plausible deniability there.
Well, that's actually exactly what happened to Weiner. That's exactly what happened to Weiner.
You know what?
Let out a little bit.
That guy that did that exposure on Facebook of his own nudity.
We did too much
of congressman. But that guy did give him enough rope, and that guy just hung himself.
Well,
but that's another story.
You know what? Truth and time go hand in hand, and all people want is the truth. And that is what Andrew Breitbart was all about. And Andrew Breitbart lives in so many of us, and especially you, Jeremy. And tell our listeners some of what you did in Wisconsin and what you saw when you were there, especially what the unions were pushing through.
Well, I was there on the ground. We had some other people on the ground up there in Wisconsin. I was specifically in Racine, and it was funny. The first thing I found was an initiative led by AFL-CIO, and they had played a really major role in organizing a lot of the larger protests and demonstrations in Wisconsin. Most of the iron fist signs that you've gotten used to seeing. All of them have the AFL-CIO stamp on the bottom of those, if you look closely at them. But I had stumbled across a van with all those posters plastered to it and megaphones coming out of the top. And I spoke to the driver of the van, who was a member of the AFL-CIO, and he had told me that they were specifically targeting the poor and lower middle class neighborhoods in Racine and Kenosha and what they call the 7-county area up there to get out the vote. And they had the megaphones plugged into, they had wiring coming through the roof of the vans, plugged into CD players playing some hip-hop music and Jesse Jackson's voice telling everybody to go out and get out to the polls and vote for Mayor Barrett and Malin Mitchell. And that was part of their get out the vote
Good
drive.
old strategy, huh?
He told me they deployed 30 to 40 of these vehicles in that 7-county area from the week leading up to Election Day and then all day on Election Day. We posted some video of the actual vehicle at Breitbart.tv, and it's actually kind of funny to look at. But there was more serious stuff going on.
What about the polling places? Were you at the polling places?
It's interesting, in the area you're talking about is close to the northern border of Indiana, and it's where a lot of industry from Illinois has moved because of the lousy atmosphere we got here in Illinois, which is far worse off than Wisconsin.
Border of Wisconsin, you mean?
Yeah, border of Wisconsin and Illinois meets there.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of industry, I don't want to go mention the names, but a lot of companies have moved over the border to get away from these crooks in Illinois.
Jeremy, we've got a few minutes before we have to go to break. Specifically, what did you see at the polling places, and especially specifically from the unions, the public sector, the public sector unions?
Well, the most interesting thing to highlight about what was going on in the polling places, I believe, is still the disadvantage that people and activists on our side of the movement have compared to the organized left and the institutional left, the community organizations that are on the ground that have been trained professionally in how to run and operate these polling places for years and years and years.
But a lot of those folks are union people. They're unions. A lot of them get furlough days to do a lot of this work.
Sure.
There's some woman that trains all these people and stands somewhere in the background, not drawing attention to herself, but he's picked her up on various movies and shown how she's always there.
What I saw was a huge disparity and inconsistency in the lack of knowledge of what's going on inside these places. So even with poll watchers and observers around, the left still being able to operate in a fashion that they're used to, and observers coming up and challenging ballots or challenging people electioneering. I happen to witness one observer tell a woman that she was electioneering by wearing a T-shirt with the iron fist on it, the AFL-CIO shirt. It wasn't actually from AFL-CIO. It looked like their sign. This was from a group called Wisconsin Jobs Now. And she was walking people in and out of the polls. And she said, no, this isn't electioneering. And this guy said, no, the GAB, the Government Accountability Board in Wisconsin, said that it was. So I went inside to talk to the election chief to find out what was going on. I'm standing there waiting for her to give me an answer of what electioneering, what constitutes electioneering. And I look up at the ceiling, or at the wall, right behind her, under the table where everybody grabs their ballots, and there's a 6x10 gigantic painting, the Barack Obama 08 Hope painting, right there looking down on everybody as they get their ballots and vote. So that's just one.
Did you ask for that to be removed? That is electioneering.
She explained to me that they did cover it up during the primary election that he was in, but because he's not in this election, that they didn't have to cover it up. But I still see that as, he's the figurehead of the Democrat Party. And I think that's sort of intimidating to have that looking down on people.
Now, Jeremy, we have about a minute left. You are doing a project with American Majority. I know that there's going to be a training June 28th in Palatine. In 20 seconds, I want to hear about that and how people can reach out and get
What we're
involved.
doing and what I got involved with American Majority with was sort of to carry out the mission of getting more citizens trained as journalists, getting people to, specifically people who aren't journalists now, to go out, look at things as they have the eyes of a journalist. If you're somebody that can operate a video camera, point and press record, do it. There's legal stuff involved in doing that in Illinois. We don't want people getting in trouble breaking the law. Most important thing is if you're somebody that's going to some kind of town hall meeting, bring a pen and paper so you can write down what you see and get it back to somebody involved in the Citizen Journalist Network.
This training is going to be on June 28th. Watch the website for more information. Thank you, Jeremy.